Hey, it's Kim McKay. Now, in episode 1, I could clearly say that the episode overall was not very good. And in episode 2, I could really say the episode overall was really good, because it was. But for this episode, it's a lot more complex on my thoughts on the entire thing as a whole. Now, I had a few scenes I've been looking forward to for ages, like the flashback scene, some Bran stuff, and it was really good. But it really had some letdown scenes and some filler scenes, Sam and Gilly, so that really subtracted from the whole episode. So what I'm going to do for this breakdown, I'm going to just go through all the filler stuff real quick, let's glean through it, and so then we can get right on to the really good, awesome scenes and thoroughly go into those ones. Now, I'm not going to say that much about Sam and Gilly, but I was watching this episode with my brother. We're on the couch, we're just lazing back watching, and then I see Sam's face go on the screen, and I'm like, Carmine is going to flip his shit as soon as he sees this. Personally, I think that the time slot that they give to Sam and Gilly should instead be used to show Arya chasing cats, just non-stop, just chasing cats for the entire time they would normally have these scenes. And I feel like we'd get more out of it as an audience. Now, I did actually like this scene with Tyrion, Missandei, and Greyworm. I think it did add some stuff to the episode, unlike the Sam and Gilly scenes, and it was really interesting to see him desperately try to connect with people he had nothing in common with. So this is the kind of filler I don't actually mind them having in Game of Thrones. It adds to the entire episode, and it was good. Then we have the scene where there's Tommen trying to talk to the High Sparrow, trying to demand him to do stuff, and you could just see the High Sparrow sidestep everything around him. He's completely on a different level of mindset and mental control. There's no way that Tommen will ever be able to outbest him when it comes to wit or any battle of the minds. Okay, now that we're done with that, we can move on to some awesome shit. Jon Snow is back, and he's a little shaken because he literally has the memory of himself getting murdered. That really does stick to some people. Game of Thrones is making it crystal clear that having that memory and looking at the own evidence on your body of stab wounds where people have literally killed you, whether your heart has been penetrated and your blood has leaked out, is something that we can never really truly understand. And the effect it's going to have on someone is completely character changing. I also like the lack of dialogue in the scene. It was quite nice to have it so that, Jon Snow was just by himself, he was there. It was more that raw emotion and that shock factor that he's alive, and that made it a whole much better scene than if they just chucked in a ton of dialogue there. Also, you gotta love Tormund. He's just amazing. He's just constantly those one-liners. He's the Bronn of the North, Now, I must say that Game of Thrones really nailed the ending on this one. The way that they hang these people and gave them all their own chance, their own reasons. It was kind of like what Varys was talking about. It was the perspectives. We got to see every perspective of every character, apart from Ollie, who didn't say anything ever in his last 3 episodes. But it did allow you to get in the heads of all the characters and then watch them really violently die, which was kind of gruesome. Just your average Game of Thrones episode. And then we have that very defining moment when Jon Snow hands over his cloak as the Lord Commander of the Night's Watch and walks out. That's how you know that he was seriously changed in a big way from him dying. You can see that him as a character, he's chose to leave behind everything he had and start a new life, literally and figuratively. Okay, so we've been waiting for this Tower of Joy flashback for so long. It's been in all these trailers, it's been foreshadowed for ages, and just I could not wait to see this scene, and I'm so glad they put it in here. When they first said that they were cutting Bran from Season 4, I wasn't really that worried, because Bran's storyline was not exciting, it wasn't anything good that I really was interested in before this point. But now that we're getting scenes like this, I want to see more and more of Bran every single episode this season. Now, for some reason, Game of Thrones decided to keep only 2 of the Kingsguard and exclude Sir Gerald Hightower from the people who are waiting at the Tower of Joy. But that didn't detract from the scene because Sir Arthur Dayne was the main focus of the scene, and that's what really they punched through this time. Also, I must say the fighting in this scene was absolutely amazing. They only used a bit of shaky cam when some of the more close-up ones, so you couldn't see that they were changing out actors to like the people who performed for them, but when they had those kind of more wide-out shots where they had all the people surrounding him and he was fighting off, it was really steady, it was well choreographed, it looked amazing. It's incredible how they show the way that Sir Arthur Dayne is an amazing swordsman. He goes 4v1, kills 3 of them, about to slay the 4th one, then Howland Reed just comes up from behind and shoves his dagger right into his neck, and a really just up-close blood splattering over Quentin Tarantino style right there. Now, from Bran's point of view, the big shock is that the stories were wrong, and Ned Stark wasn't as honourable as everyone thought. He was fighting in a war, and he wasn't a perfect, glimmering figure of honour. Now, in Game of Thrones, we constantly see that fighting and war and stuff is all brutal and, depressing and savage, and there's no real art to it like the stories like to say, and that's something they really try to bring to light with this scene. As well as that, we got to see a lot more of the character of Haldon Reed. Now, the Cranach men are people who hide in swamps, move around constantly, have no stable homes. When people come to fight or trespass their lands, they hide in the bushes, shoot poison darts at them. They're not honourable fighters that charge into battle on the backs of horses and stuff. Now, this way that the Cranach men practically kill people, they do it the most efficient and easiest way for them, using their surroundings and stuff, because they don't enjoy killing people, they don't want to do it, they do it for self-defense, and they have to. Haldon Reed knew that his friend was going to die unless he stabbed him in the throat, and so he did it. There was no second thought about it. They're not like the knights of our age, where war was just the game to them, something they could play as their interest. People dying and people living was something for fun, for nobles to watch, and stuff like that. So all in all, I really liked the way they did this flashback, but man, were they cruel. Oh, right before we're about to get some juicy info. Now, we have to leave, Bran. We have to leave. As soon as I found out that we're going to be showing this flashback through the perspective of Bran and Bloodraven, and not just like a separate flashback like Cersei's one, I knew that he was going to do that from the foreshadowing we had last episode. Now, this part here made me really cringe at Dany's character. She was captured, enslaved, and forced to walk in the Khalasar down to Vaestar throne. She should really know that she's not in a position of power right now, but she's still acting like a stuck-up britch. That's my new word for a cross between a bitch and a prick. She's in a room full of people who used to be the wives of cows, and she brings up, "I am the wife of a great cow," like that means shit in a room full of people who are all wives of great cows. If I was that high priestess, I would be killing her instead of letting her come into the group straight away. Even not knowing anything about her, not caring about Daenerys whatsoever. She's been an absolute annoying piece of shit right now. She's all stuck up. Oh, just kill her, move on. But of course, that won't happen. Drogo will come in, she'll get her army, she'll move on, and we'll get some really awesome Daenerys, hopefully next episode or a little bit later on. But I really hope they fix her attitude before they do that, because I would hate for her to get away with being that piece of shit. Okay, so we can see that Qyburn's convincing all of Varys' ex-birds to join him and give him whispers instead so he can work for Cersei better. Now in this scene, he comes across as a complete pedophile because he's gathering all these poor kids saying, "I'll look after you, make sure your parents go away. Oh, if you do things for me, I'll give you sweets." Then we move on to Jaime questioning how they actually made the mountain do what he's doing and the kind of intelligence level of this beast. Which is something that probably everyone who's been watching the show is wanting to know, like, what exactly made him this way? What made him a Frankenstein? What kind of level of thinking does he have? Next we come to the scene where Cersei and Jaime storm into the small council, try to get their seats and plan stuff to get their revenge using them with their side. But it's not working with Sir Kevin around. From the looks of this scene, I don't think Pycelle is going to survive much longer. He's got some pretty heavy enemies from Cersei and Jaime. He's not exactly on the best terms with everyone on the council. He's been there way too long. He's an old, weird, perverted man, and he's got to go. Personally, I'm a little bit surprised that Jaime's still with Cersei at this point. I thought he would have been sent off the Riverlands soonish, but maybe that will happen next episode. But I really want him to be separated from Cersei so we can have that cool Jaime that everyone likes return, and they can do some really nice plot-driving stuff. I really want to see him and Bran meet up again. Okay, some people have been saying that Arya's scenes were not exactly what they wanted, but personally, I think that the way that they're doing this is amazing. Like, apart from her not being able to walk into cats for that, and that's part of her blind training from the books, I really like the way that they're doing it. She's progressing her character, she's training, she's pretending to be this, like, no-man thing. It's very much of an emphasis on, will she break her character of being no one and return back to Arya Stark like a lot of us want her to be, or will she continue to be a faceless man? And that's the whole wavering bank at the moment. Now, I'm not entirely sure that she'll ever go back to Arya Stark, but I know that she will not stay a no one. Either she'll go back to Westeros to make her list shorter, or I think that she'll end up doing that awesome theory about her getting perma-warped into Nymeria. Okay, now we all want to talk about this last scene. It was really interesting, had some big plot twists, some really interesting bringbacks of characters, but what I really liked was Small John Umber. He was shooting straight the entire time. He didn't give a fuck about Ramsay whatsoever. He knew that Ramsay killed Roose. He knows he's a piece of shit. He knows that he needs the Umbers and he needs the North. And he also wants to stop Jon Snow from messing with his lands with the wildlings, and therefore the gift. Now, a lot of people were really sad about the fact that they're going to bring back Rickon only to kill him, but I think that was his entire storyline from the start. Remember, as much as the show changes this entire story from the Song of Ice and Fire, it was still primarily written by George R. Martin, who was a master at this kind of literal works of art. His direwolf was not named Shaggy Dog for no reason. Now, the reason I believe his direwolf was named Shaggy Dog was from the definition of that kind of story that's a Shaggy Dog story.
In its original sense, a Shaggy Dog story is an extremely long-winded anecdote characterized by extensive narration of typically irrelevant incidents and terminated by an anticlimax.
Pretty much, it's this whole setup of a storyline that seems like it's going to go somewhere important, and the punchline is pointless. And that's Rickon's storyline. He goes away, he escapes, he manages to go off to the same Umbers for rescue with Archer and stuff like that. It seems like he's going to be the last survivor, a critical piece in the game for the Starks later on, just for him to come back, Ramsay to get control of him, kill him, and put him on some crosses. That is the sad, sad story of Rickon Stark. Thanks for watching this entire review. You guys are awesome. It's fans like you guys who have been my subscribers for ages, have stuck with me and watch all my videos, support me in my comments, who really make this an amazing experience. I could not hope for a better fan base and people who support me in everything I do. This season is going to be incredible. We've got tons of stuff to look forward to, and I want to experience with you guys. So, other than that, I'll see you guys next time. And I know I will, because you're awesome that way.